All right, guys, this is going to be the last ride along. I'm going to show you now how to use your source to kind of write about how your source is connected to your question. And that could be any number of ways, right? It could be connected by answering the question. Does it help you answer the question? Does it challenge the question? Suddenly you realize like, oh, this is going against some of my initial thoughts. Does it support? Does it give you a different perspective or point of view? Like you got to figure out like, what is this doing? Is it defining a term? So let's go and look at the assignment just to get a better sense of what the teacher's asking for here. So when I look at it, I've already done the summary and the credibility. So I just have this explain the relationship between the source to your question. Does it support, explain, challenge, right? So those are things I just talking about. Like how is it connected to? How is it giving you information? In what ways is it giving you, providing you with information? So we're gonna have to go back and look at a couple of things. Usually sometimes I like to bring the question right back to just deal with it directly. And that's why I often like to bold my question in my essay writing. And I'm just going to bring it right back down here. I'm going to change all this stuff that was bolded before. I don't want to confuse myself. I'm just going to bring the bolded question down here. I began this essay wondering how standardized tests impact student self-confidence. And now I got to think about this, right? I just had this conversation about how tests kill creativity and they fail to be inclusive. And so I can see how this kind of leads me to a potential answer. Give me this interesting discussion about, it's going to definitely affect self-confidence. This is going to be now me making all the connections, right? Because nowhere in my source here was he specifically talking about self-confidence, but I'll tell you, as I think about it, the fact that tests kill creativity and that the fact that tests are non-inclusive forms of assessment of determining whether students have learned something or not, that is definitely a killer of confidence. And so I'm going to make that connection. I began this essay wondering how standardized exams impact student confidence. And after reading Shafiyeva, I realized that the fact that tests are a one-size-fits-all approach is can be quite damning for students if they don't fit into, if they're learning, right? It's not about them. If their learning doesn't fit into that standard, they fail. But it has nothing to fail. And that in turn, right? And that in turn leads them to decreased self-confidence. I mean, I went through this. I'm going to make a connection to myself now. I mean, I went through this myself. I never learned how to the approach to taking the exam, and I tried to read in my own ways, but it was not the ways that the test valued. And I remember trying to find like my own way to like figure out like what is this character talking about. I have a specific memory just looking at the test, trying to like really figure out like, okay, this seems like it could, like, I don't know what a main point is, but it seems like this is important. And so I would look for the things that seemed important. And I'm going to write that. I remember as a child taking the toss, and because I never learned what a main point was, I did not know exactly how to find it. But I remember thinking it must be, it must mean important. So I looked for the info that was important. And that answer failed, led me to a failed score. I think a student who looks for important info is just as capable as one who looks for main points. Yet the exam failed to acknowledge this approach. It's still a valuable one, just not the one with standardized test viewed as the right one. That's interesting. I'm using my own experience to help me further explain this interesting connection. So how does it answer my question? I'm still trying to work through that answer, and that's okay. Much of our writing is just us explaining and exploring our ideas and thoughts. When it has confidence, based on Shafiyeva and my own experiences, exams really do kill creativity by forcing students to follow one path of learning. And if they don't, they fail. They fail. Failing is, they fail. I think that's good. I think that's a good way to end that one. Yeah, I like that. So I've got about, and this is all single spaced. If I double space it, it'll be way, way bigger. But I got about a half a page to a page. Let me kind of zoom out and see what I've got going on. I've got about like if I double space this, it's going to be like a page and a half or a page and a little quarter maybe. I'm happy with this. And this is just one source, by the way. Me kind of working my brain through one single source. I'm going to add another one in here. So that'll get me to about half of, anywhere from half a page to a page is what we're looking for. If you go over, cool. One way to kind of elaborate and really work your brain is to make connections between your own experiences and what these sources are saying as you try to answer those questions or see how they're related to your question. But that's how I did it. Is this exactly what I'm looking for in yours? No, it might be that you start with your, maybe you start with a transitionary phrase and you talk more about what makes a journal credible, or you go straight into a summary and then talk about the author's credibility or maybe the source's credibility. You know, you could write it in the way that makes sense for you. I just want to give you guys a good kind of a little bit of a, let's write together, because it can be really, really helpful. Like me personally, I like when I'm with the teacher or a tutor and we're kind of working on things together. And that's what these videos are for. You don't have to follow my model 100%. Follow your path, follow the way that you want to write it. But if you're struggling, this video is meant to support you. And of course, I'll be around this weekend. Check your emails in case I decide to potentially give another extension on this draft. Because of that blackout, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not entirely sure. But we'll find out. All right, guys, have fun writing. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say, and I will see you in class this coming week.